Part 156. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1556. The strong sea monster leader adds one update. The temperature of the golden dragon egg will rise from 10 degrees to 10 degrees, up to double the base temperature. Silver dragon and white dragon eggs are the same. They are going down from 10 degrees to 10 degrees. At most, use dry ice. Don't lower it any further. Don't use liquid nitrogen or anything like that. Just kidding, something like minus 200 degrees below zero, or close to 200 degrees. If you really want to soak the dragon eggs in it without any buffer, are you really afraid that the dragon eggs will crack with a crack? As for strong acid, you are not allowed to immerse dragon eggs directly. Find some eggshells, one strong acid after another, and soak them alternately to see which strong acid will not corrode the eggshells. Hydrochloric acid, sulfuric acid, and nitric acid can all be preserved in glass, but hydrofluoric acid can corrode glass, indicating that they corrode in different directions. What if the eggshell just can't withstand a certain kind of strong acid? Moreover, who knows what acid those magicians can tinker with? It is said that fluorantibonic acid will corrode whatever it sees. Only Teflon can be used as a container to hold it, and nothing else will. If nothing else will work, who can be sure that the shells of dragon eggs will do? The dragon clan has gone through a lot of hardships to be able to get pregnant and lay dragon eggs. But if they are tempted by a magician and dipped into inappropriate strong acid, it will be over with a click. Believe it or not, the head of the magician who made the suggestion will be torn off. As the project leader, Greed had to sigh, click, 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 reject some projects, and then set various restrictions on other projects. In addition to proper hatching conditions, there is a special condition for a dragon egg to hatch: it is best not to be removed from the nest. If the nest is destroyed during the incubation process, even if it is repaired by the parents, the young dragon will be affected to varying degrees. Hatchlings are more affected by being repaired by dragons other than their parents. Being taken out of the nest, even if it is taken care of by dragons, the impact is almost equivalent to a serious injury. Greed frowned and read line by line the guidelines and precautions for hatching dragon eggs compiled by the magicians. As I read, I couldn't help but turn my head to look at Cyrilla. Why do I feel that, unlike what you said, you can just dig a hole somewhere in the dragon's nest and bury it? If you just bury it, the nest will be destroyed and the eggs will be taken out. You shouldn't do anything to the dragon. The egg is responsible for the impact. Cyrilla couldn't answer this question either. She bit her lower lip, thought carefully for a while, and shook her head. I don't know, I can't remember. Inheritance? Greed asked tentatively. Cyrilla continued to shake her head. The inheritance of the dragon clan will only be triggered when it is encountered, seen, and used. Just looking at the information like this, I can't remember it, otherwise, I will go and take a nap. Hey, don't. The inheritance of the dragon clan, if it is not naturally triggered when something happens, it needs to be stimulated through meditation. Many dragons think that meditation is too painful and tiring, and most of them will sleep for a long time, searching for inheritance in their sleep. However, sleeping like this consumes too much time. Cyrilla followed Gretel around, studying healing spells, chromosomes, and all kinds of things, and gained quite a lot of benefits. If she had spent her time sleeping, she would still be a young dragon now, still more than 10 years away from adulthood. Then, I'll ask my aunt. Unfortunately, my parents are already asleep, and my brother and sister are not married yet, so they probably don't know. Sarah spread her wings and flew out. 2 days later, she returned sadly. As soon as she landed, she buried her head under her right wing. Auntie doesn't know either. To be precise, her aunt only knew that the dragon eggs must always be placed in the nest and not moved. It is best for a female dragon that is incubating eggs to spend most of its time in the dragon's nest, near the eggs, or lying on them. The shell of the dragon egg is strong enough for the female dragon to walk and sleep on without worrying about crushing the egg. Of course, large-scale battles are still not possible. Be careful to avoid egg nests to prevent the dragon eggs from being destroyed. As for placing the eggs farther away from the dragon's nest, so that the female dragon can't carry them under her belly day and night. It's not impossible, but what Aunt Cyrilla told her was, the baby dragons hatched in this way may be weaker and not easy to raise. So why should you put the egg in the dragon's nest? If it requires strong energy field radiation, then taking the egg out of the nest should also be able to create a similar strong energy field. In other words, the dragon clan itself, or the female dragon itself, is a strong energy field that can have a strong positive impact on dragon eggs. Without this energy field, there will be problems with the development of dragon eggs. But that doesn't explain it. After the nest is destroyed, even if the dragon egg's parents repair it with their own hands, there will be problems. It can't explain that other dragons will also have problems raising the dragon eggs. Damn it, my aunt won't show me the dragon egg's nest. Even if you look at it from a distance, you won't even give it. I wanted to see what kind of magic was used to protect the nest and what the state of energy condensation was like, but she didn't even show me. Cyrilla frowned, muttered, and kept making assumptions and overturning them, overturning and assuming again. Gretel stared at her with a smile, watching her change from dragon form to human form, and then from human form back to dragon form, standing up and lying down, and standing up again, subconsciously digging holes in the ground. The square outside the mage tower, even if it has been deliberately built, cannot stop the power of a silver dragon digging holes. In a few moments, a nest the size of 2 people and half a person deep was dug out. Cyrilla, what are you thinking about? If you have an idea, you can also try to apply for a topic and research it yourself. Greet suggested as pleasantly as possible. I don't recommend it anymore. Cyrilla is like this. She is about to dig out a nest to hatch eggs in the square, and squats down by herself. Yes, Cyrilla's eyes lit up. Her body swayed and suddenly retracted into her human form. When I retracted, I realized that my position was much lower than the surroundings, and I almost buried myself. The silver dragon girl stuck out her tongue in annoyance and jumped out. With a wave of his hand, the magic took effect and the messy square was repaired. Following Keixen, he ran towards Gretel and took his hand as soon as he came over. I thought of it. I thought of a topic. A topic that only I can study. Gretel, you must approve it. What topic? Greet had a bad feeling in his heart. Sure enough, Cyrilla held her head high and said loudly. Study the different effects on dragon eggs if the dragons incubate them themselves and place them in a magic circle environment. Greet, what does this look like? Don't you want to pass my subject? That's not true. Gretel finally came back to his senses. He opened his mouth, closed it again, opened his mouth again, and finally found his voice. So, Cyrilla, who do you want to hatch the eggs? Which dragon around here can she control? Emerald Dragon Alize? Her husband, the Amethyst Dragon? Or, her brothers and sisters? Whether it's her brother or her sister, Cyrilla can't beat them at the moment and can't use violence to force them to do work. Of course it's me. Cyrilla held out her chest high and clapped her hands twice to show her certainty. Who else is it if it's not me? My topic, my research project, must be studied by myself. When the time comes, it will be convenient for you to measure the magic force field around the dragon and measure the breadth of the dragon, right? Then, dragon egg. Cyrilla, we are not married yet. You haven't laid an egg yet. By the way, I don't even know whether you will lay eggs or give birth to children. You don't have to steal other people's eggs to hatch them. There are so many dragon eggs. Greet, Please choose a batch and hatch them for me. Half of them will be the experimental group and half will be the control group. Anyway, those dragon beasts will not snatch eggs from me. Sarala's answer was quite reasonable. After answering, he dragged Gretel into the mage tower and went straight to the top floor to read the reports Gretel had received. Which batch of dragon beasts is about to lay eggs recently? Which batch of eggs is more suitable for experiment? Gretel, do you have records here? Help me circle the area. Where is the best place for me to set up the nest of dragon eggs? Isn't it too far to take you to the dragon's nest? Gretel. He accidentally choked a mouthful of water into his trachea and coughed instantly. Sarala ran over and patted him on the back, bang bang bang, bang 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 bang, a dozen times with a force that could break the spine of an ordinary person, and Gretel finally regained his composure. Sarala, cough, cough, have you ever thought, cough cough cough, dragon eggs are different from dragon eggs. Even if they are influenced by the dragon clan, the dragon eggs will not awaken their true names, let alone will have wisdom. In other words, Sarala worked hard and hatched the eggs for several months and half a year, but it is very likely that she will get nothing in the end. A dragon egg is a dragon egg, and it is not the same thing as a dragon egg. That's right. Sarala pursed her lips and rolled her eyes. Look left, look right, look left, and slap your hands. Yes. Then I will get some more eggs, lizard eggs, pseudo-dragon eggs, sub-dragon eggs, and place them around me, setting up experimental groups and control groups. Gretel. Sarara, is there a possibility? I don't want you to hatch other eggs, whether they are dragon eggs, lizard eggs, or whatever, I don't want to. Then you can start this project. The old rules are to write an application report, submit the tower spirit, and allocate resources. Let me see, there are 2 silver dragon beasts that are about to lay eggs recently, and some of these eggs can be transferred. I'll hatch it for you. Okay, Sarala happily agreed. Picking up the pen, looking left and right, I let out another breath. How to write this application report? Greet, you write it for me. Write it yourself, Gretel suddenly made a face. He stiffened for a moment, then quickly relaxed, smiling and softening the lines of his cheeks to coax her. Hey, write it yourself. Writing an application report is also a process of sorting out your ideas and research plans, which is very beneficial to the growth of your academic abilities. You can read all the previous application reports. Although you cannot copy them, you can still refer to them. I remember to give you permission. Sarala went to read the information without hesitation. After puncturing a magic crystal screen and tearing a dozen quills, he finally produced an application report that was barely readable. Greet guided her to revise 2 more drafts, added some research details, and then raised her hand and let it go. Sarala was so proud that she took the approved application report and went to get dragon eggs, lizard eggs, pseudo-dragon eggs, sub-dragon eggs. Commanding the giants to dig simple dragon nests for her, dig dragon egg nests, dig nests for various eggs, and dig out the energy pool in the dragon nest. Find a suitable research partner to help her measure various force fields and study the conditions of various eggs when she is hatching eggs. Such a big news cannot be hidden from anyone, and the news that Sarara suddenly started hatching eggs cannot be hidden from anyone. Not long after, magicians from various schools came to inquire for information for various reasons. First, go to the place where Sarala hatched eggs, look at the surrounding settings, and ask her research partners for information, and then go to Talling to ask. It is said that Sarala has started hatching eggs. Have you really started hatching eggs? Whose eggs are you hatching? Did you start a new project? Oh, that's not bad. Most people just want to inquire about the news and talk in depth, but it's hard to say anything. Only Sister Philby, after inquiring about the cause and effect, came to talk to Greet. It's rare that Sarala is willing to do a project herself. This is also doing you a favor. You must help her finish it well, the senior sister said with a solemn face. This will be of great benefit to her growth. Even if it doesn't work out in the end, it's still good. Don't set her back just because you think it's weird. Greet nodded like a pound of garlic. It's rare for Cyrilla to work on a project independently, instead of hanging around in his project team, with a hammer in one place and a stick in the other. This must be encouraged. Let's talk about it again. The senior sister shook her hair, her expression solemn and gentle. Even hatching dragon eggs will be of great benefit to her in exploring her own heritage and understanding her own abilities. She is now an adult dragon. If she can advance again, your children will have a higher starting point. Advance again? I have just caught up with her in terms of level now, and when I advance to another level, I am left behind by her again. Sarah, you have to wait for me. Not to mention, Archmage Philby's eyes flashed and she couldn't help but laugh. She is trying to hatch the eggs now. Even if she only develops enough patience, when you have children in the future, Cyrilla will not be impatient if she hatches the eggs herself. That's that, the egg is really laid, and she can only hatch it. Gretel looked strange. If not, do you expect him to hatch eggs as a human? Based on the size of the dragon eggs, if a clutch of 2 to 5 eggs were followed the dragon clan's practice, it wouldn't be big enough for him to lie on it. During the double monthly voting period, please vote for cats as much as possible. Meow. The cat is sitting upright, with its tail wrapped around its forelegs, and raising its little paws to attract votes. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1557. Greet, hatching eggs is so boring, lying there and not being able to move. I'll give you a complete set of communication tools. Do you want to talk more with your little ant? Theoretically, the female dragon can't lie down all the time when it's incubating eggs. She always has to go out for a walk, hunt, or something. Gretel, hatching eggs is really boring. My aunt said that although you can go out from time to time, it is best to stay as close to the eggs as possible and feel the changes in the eggs. Is it boring to stay near the eggs? I will send you a few sets of magic books. Take this opportunity to read more books and try to learn 1 or 2 more magics. Gretel. Gretel simply didn't know whether Cyrilla was hatching the eggs or he was hatching the eggs. When Cyrilla was studying with him before, although they were often together, they didn't talk much and spent most of the time busy. Now I am alone in a simple dragon's nest to hatch eggs, and I have endless talk all day long. How is the work? How is the mental journey of learning magic? How is the detail of each egg? What changes are there today? The conscience of heaven and earth, he has obviously given 2 people to run errands for her. A transformation magician who is responsible for measuring the changes in the force field around Cyrilla, the changes in the dragon's aura, and seeing through those dragon eggs and monster eggs. A nature priest who is responsible for recording the development process of dragon eggs and magic beast eggs, as well as the changes in their life breath. By the way, we also need to compare the development process with the control group. 2 people. 2 people. Talking to Cyrilla and answering all kinds of questions for her, no matter what, it's enough. But Cyrilla insists on sticking to him, every little detail, every little change, every detail has to be told to him, but it's really interesting. If Cyrilla was too busy and didn't say a word to him for a whole day, he would feel lonely and uncomfortable. Moreover, Cyrilla had been incubating the eggs for 7 or 8 days, and she felt that her temperament had become much calmer, unlike before, where she could not stop worrying for a while. Not only that, she has also made clear progress in terms of magic perception. Gretel, I feel like I feel the changes in the dragon egg, in the communicator, Cyrilla happily took credit. I seem to be able to feel these little guys. They are growing up bit by bit, breathing bit by bit, absorbing energy bit by bit. When they stay with me, they can really establish a connection with me, and then they can look better. Can it really look better? Greet also became curious. Are you sure they can establish a connection with you? Is it because they have established a connection with you that they grow better? That's for sure. There was a sound of rubbing dragon scales in the contactor. Gretel could almost imagine Cyrilla happily nodding her head. It's because they have established a connection with me. They breathe my breath, absorb my power, and use it for their own purposes, so they can grow so well. I have a feeling that these dragon eggs are at least better than their brothers and sisters. Level 1. So awesome, Gretel was moved. Then let them study it carefully. The power fluctuations around you and the nature of the dragon's aura must be studied carefully in order to decipher the mysteries. Then what do I do? You don't have to do anything, Gretel said decisively. Just hatch the eggs and feel the changes in the eggs. Others will do the other work. Well, whether dragon aura is a necessary and sufficient condition for the hatching of dragon eggs is a question worth studying. If the dragon egg must be in the dragon's nest to feel the dragon's aura in order to hatch well, that means that much of the later work, such as chromosome enhancement of the dragon egg, needs to be done in the dragon's nest. And like Cyrilla's aunt, even her own niece is not allowed to take a look at the dragon's nest from a distance. If mages are allowed to enter the dragon's nest, get close to the egg hatching nest, and operate the dragon eggs, then the possibility of the mages being allowed to operate is even smaller. Greet pondered, quickly writing down the questions to be studied line by line. While writing, he asked Cyrilla softly. Cyrilla, if someone comes to the place where you hatch eggs to enhance the chromosomes of those dragon beast eggs, can you bear it? Will you feel particularly irritable? The rustling sound sounded like Cyrilla lying down and swishing her tail. A little bit, but it's okay. The premise is that they don't stay too long, otherwise it will be very annoying, and the movement of the magic circle should not be too loud, otherwise it will be noisy. Understood. Even if she is pretending to hatch eggs, Cyrilla doesn't like to be disturbed. And if the experiment was on one's own eggs, the dragons might even attack frantically. Therefore, before enhancing dragon eggs, it is best to have enough experimental data to prove that doing so is really beneficial to dragon eggs. Otherwise, it would be impossible to get the dragon clan to do things that go against their own nature. Dragon eggs. Dragon eggs. From the previous generation, it was destined that dragon eggs could not be intelligent. What kind of experimental process would it take for the dragon clan to confirm that this kind of experiment is really effective for dragon eggs? After all, the difference between dragons and dragon beasts lies in whether the young dragon can inherit the huge dragon heritage in just a short period of time after breaking out of its shell. If you can bear it, you will have wisdom. If you cannot bear it, your brain will be burned out and you will be a confused beast for the rest of your life. Greet struggled for a long time and couldn't figure it out. Fortunately, the experiment period was long enough, allowing him to slowly check the information and slowly ask the dragons. The gestation time of dragon eggs ranges from 2 months to more than half a year, and the incubation time ranges from half a year to 2 or 3 years. The pregnancy and birth time of serious dragons are even longer, and they must go through a complete cycle. For example, the emerald dragon Ulize gives birth to dragon eggs, and the eggs hatch safely before the next stage of research can be carried out. During this process, they can use pseudo-dragons, sub-dragons, and eggs of various lizard monsters for pre-research. Research and compare, what are the differences in the chromosomes of stronger and weaker monsters, especially those with stronger and weaker magic. Which chromosome positions are particularly strong? If there are enough experimental materials, we can weigh them, scan their brain sizes, and estimate the weight of their brains. In extreme cases, we can even perform dissections and compare their brains. Greet gave the order, and naturally a group of magicians, especially the necromancers who had itchy hands after doing genetic analysis every day, and who had not done any dissection for too long, rushed to study various warcraft. After 2 full months of research, a report was presented to Greet. The brain development of young beasts with strong magic control is significantly higher than that of monsters with weak magic control. The difference in brain weight of the same kind of monster is about 1% to 3%. Well, does this weight difference rule out the influence of the difference in the cub's basic weight? After all, stronger cubs will generally have more developed muscles and heavier weights. Beside Gretel, the flying quills paused slightly. On the top of the oak staff, 16 leaves were raised at the same time, looking at the necromancer who was speaking at the morning meeting. The necromancer nodded calmly. Yes, this effect has been eliminated. The difference calculated here is based on correcting the weight difference. The difference in the actual measured brain weight is more than 20%. Well, the weight difference between the big cub and the small cub is too big. Gretel silently shook off a cold sweat. The necromancer continued to report. There are more differences in the sulci of the brain. Due to the well-developed sulci, the total brain surface area of cubs with stronger magic control is more than 50% larger than that of cubs with poor control. From this we can judge that a fully developed brain will be of great help to young animals in understanding and controlling magic. Not surprisingly. A strong brain means strong thinking, and a strong thinking means strong mental strength. As for how to enhance brain development, the enhancement of specific chromosome points also plays a great role in the development of the brain of young animals. Elder Irwin took 2 steps forward and placed another report in front of Gretel. Based on our research on devil frog eggs, devil lizard eggs and many other animal eggs, we have screened out several points that can promote the development of the young animal's brain. Of course, these points are not necessarily applicable to the development of dragons and dragon beasts, and further research is needed. Greet nodded silently. During the previous process of transforming dragon blood dependents, they also discovered some chromosome points that allowed the dependents to possess the dragon's individual magic and extremely strong mental power. However, dragon blood dependents are transformed after adulthood, and the chromosome enhancement on the dragon eggs can only give the dragon beasts stronger spell-like abilities, but it cannot give them wisdom. So, let's think about it. Is there any way to prove that our experiment can help increase the possibility of the young dragon's awakening? Conducting experiments on dragon eggs? That's impossible. Withered seeds cannot bear fruit anyway. Silver Dragon Andre said softly. Beside him, the emerald dragon Alize nodded slightly, also looking embarrassed. A dragon beast is a dragon beast. Then, what about letting the dragon beast possess the dragon's soul? The necromancers had been waiting for this opportunity for a long time and immediately suggested. Then, it was immediately rejected again. It's useless. It's equivalent to using the soul to drive a demon doll. The soul is a very magical thing. It can only pass through the boundary between life and death, grow slowly in the mother's belly, and be conceived in the egg. Then, we directly stuff the dragon's soul into the dragon egg. The magicians in Black Crow Swamp are still obsessed with it. This time, Emerald Dragon Tana frowned and pondered for a long time. It's not impossible. Although I don't know where there is a soul that can be stuffed like this, could you please apply and give it a try? Gretel was not optimistic about this application. But to his surprise, Sky Dragon City actually approved it. Along with the approval came suggestions on how to obtain dragon souls. Maybe you can go to the dragon tomb to have a look. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1558. The Strong Sea Monster Leader adds 2 updates. What? Dragon Tomb? Can we go? Can we really go? Gretel couldn't believe her eyes and ears. He carefully read the replies and instructions on the process again, but couldn't help but grab Andre and ask. Can you really let us go? Don't the dragon clan have any taboos? Don't you think that if we go to the dragon tomb, it will, huh? Andre also found this strange. After all, Dragon Tomb is not a place you can go to casually. Young dragons like him were warned don't go when they left their parents to stand on their own. You will know when you can go. Until then, don't go. So he hasn't been there either. At his age, he is still very far away from death, and very far away from going to the cemetery to find his own future burial place. Moreover, he has also passed the age where he can go to the sky and the earth and go wherever he wants to, wherever there is danger and mystery in the world. So he had only heard about the dragon tomb and had never been there. There were not just one or two young dragons trapped in that place. Especially red dragons and black dragons, which are very courageous, have a bad relationship with their parents, were kicked out of the dragon's nest at a very young age, and always like to run around. As I was running, I heard that he was lost. After a long time, I heard that he probably died in the dragon tomb. Then the elders would point and say, it's not in vain, it's buried inside anyway. Then, these stories became legends to warn the next generation of dragons. I asked the higher UPS, he pointed to the top of his head, indicating that he had contacted Sky Dragon City. The above meaning is that the dragon tomb is quite dangerous. The bodies and spirits of many high-level dragons have disintegrated, and over time, unpredictable existences have been nourished. Anyone who dares to go in is generally responsible for their own life and death. Of course, you are not allowed to take anything out of it without permission. Dragon scales, dragon bones, dragon blood, dragon soul, nothing else is allowed. Anyone who dares to take anything out of it will be regarded as a tomb robber, and the dragon clan will hunt him down forever. When Gretel heard a word, the corner of his mouth twitched, and when he heard another word, the corner of his mouth twitched again. All of the things they mentioned are the favorites of magicians. Except for dragon souls, each of them is a good thing that the council has long wanted to buy. It has a price but no market. It's not that he doesn't want to buy dragon souls, but that things like dragon souls have never been leaked out. Even if the magicians dare to wander around the world and different dimensions, they can't exchange them, let alone put them up for sale. Then, can we bring the dragon soul out this time? He pulled the chair and sat forward a little closer. Andre nodded naturally. Yeah, didn't your application for this experiment say that you need 10 dragon souls? What it means is that it's not easy to go into the dragon tomb, so just take 20 dragon souls out. Otherwise, if the experiment doesn't go well, you have to go to the dragon tomb again, which would be too much trouble. So generous. Gretel just wanted to look up to the sky and laugh 3 times. 20 dragon souls, even if the success rate is only 1/4, is enough to produce experimental results. Not to mention, Sky Dragon City's handwriting represents their attitude towards magicians. Kindness, kindness, great kindness. I guess now, their reputation in Dragon City has gone beyond friendship to respect, right? Then, has Sky Dragon City ever said that it allows a maximum number of people to go there? Is there a limit to the profession of people who can go there? For example, how many natural priests can go there at most, how many necromancers can go there at most, etc. Long Cheng expressed their friendliness, and he had to think of some possibilities ahead. Also, in addition to the dragon soul, I want to get something else, is that okay? For example, I have a follower, and I want to get a strong enough dragon bone for him to use as a weapon. For another example, can we take some of the output from the dragon tomb, such as ores, herbs, plants, etc., that are not dragon body parts? Can we kill the native creatures in the dragon tomb? I'll go and ask. Andre once again initiated communication with Sky Dragon City. 2 days later, he came back with a reply. Considering the danger of the dragon tomb, there will be an elder who will guide you. Therefore, it is best not to exceed 10 people, including you, who go to the dragon tomb. If there are more, the elder will not be able to take care of you. Well, that makes sense. Gretel nodded and continued to look at him expectantly. What then? If you want, take a dragon bone, no problem, only one. In addition, you are not allowed to turn over the dragon skeleton, you are not allowed to pick and choose, you are not allowed to take one, throw it down, and replace it with another. Andrei rattled off a bunch of requirements, which in Greet's opinion were not difficult to fulfill. The key is to respect the bodies of dragons and not treat them as simple resources or objects. Don't be like the necromancer, who sees a dragon corpse and thinks about becoming a bone dragon, or some other undead creature. As long as you abide by these few rules, you will not violate the rules of the dragon clan and cause the dragon clan to be furious. On a personal note, no one wants their ancestors' tombs to be stolen and their bones to be taken down to do this or that, right? As for the output in Dragon Tomb, follow the Elder. You can take some within the scope allowed by the Elder. You can also kill the native creatures in the Dragon Tomb that have nothing to do with the Dragon Clan. But the Elders will not intervene, and they will not be able to defeat the native creatures guarding the mines, and will be killed or injured by them, or they will step out of the circle designated by the Elders and cause unnecessary battles. I understand, life and death are at your own risk. Gretel quickly raised his hands. As for the composition of the members who go to Dragon Tomb, the Dragon Clan made no special requests. From Gretel's point of view, the Dragon Clan wouldn't even look at anything below legend, right? Since they allow it, that's easy. Gretel informed all the researchers of the news, and the next moment, the entire Mage Tower, as well as the Nature Religions camp outside the Mage Tower, exploded like boiling water dripping into boiling oil. Praise the Lord of the Plague. Thank you to the Lord of the Plague. As a necromancer, my highest dream is to go to the Dragon Tomb. We must grab the spot this time. Can we grab half of the spot? Can you bring a few more alchemists with you? Especially old Thor and Blanche. They have special expertise in identifying new materials. It's rare to be able to enter the Dragon Tomb. There must be many materials that have never been seen before. It's worth it. We collect and explore. After the death of the high-level dragons, what changes will be caused when the energy dissipates? This is worth studying. Master Nordmark, please let us go in and take a look. The transformation between life and death, the mystery of nature. Even Elder Nox showed a yearning expression. The natural order, which rarely uses its privileges and influence over him, also came here specifically to find him. No matter what, can you give us at least one spot? Just one. This kind of knowledge can become the inheritance of the entire cult. Ah, why is everyone asking me for a spot? Greed held his head and groaned. There are 10 quotas in total and 100 researchers. One for every 10 people could have been selected according to the proportion, which is fair, reasonable, and impartial. But if you include himself, there will be one less place. If Sarala also wants to go, then there will be 2 less places. In this operation, he wanted to buy a keel stick for Bernard, so he would have to take him with him, which would result in 3 fewer places. But he also wanted to bring Idion with him. It would be difficult if he didn't have legendary combat power by his side. Don't worry, there are only 4 places missing. There are 6 places in total. How to divide them? To whom should I give more and to whom should I give less? Who can do me a favor, just help me decide, I really don't want to worry about this. Gretel met with 5 groups of people in one breath, exhausted all his social balance today, and finally broke the pot and thanked the guests behind closed doors. He locked himself on top of the Mage Tower, cut off all external contact, and directly called Sarala. Sarala, are you going to the Dragon Tomb? If you don't go, don't go. There was a swishing sound, mixed with clicking noises, as well as panicked shouts and shouts. Lizard eggs. Lizard eggs. Don't step on them. Don't move. Don't move. That's a dragon egg over there. I can't bear to step on it. After a period of confusion, the other side became quiet. Greed heard Cyrilla complaining dissatisfiedly. Why are you mentioning the dragon tomb? It's so annoying. My scales are all standing up. The cold wind is blowing. Don't mention it next time. Cyrilla refused to go, and Idion expressed his willingness to protect Gretel. Bernard's face was full of embarrassment and gratitude. You don't have to think so much about me, you have already done too much for me. Don't be like this, you are mine, and I always hope that you will go all the way up, preferably to become a legend. Gretel waved his hand without any doubt. Then, he directly asked the tower spirit to communicate with senior sister Vilby and simply asked for help. Senior sister, this candidate to go to the dragon tomb. I won't go. Although Vilby felt itchy in her heart, she couldn't take advantage of everything and always wanted to be fair and just. After thinking about it, I analyzed it piece by piece and gave my junior brother some suggestions. The people who are going this time are all magicians. Even if there are undead creatures, golems, etc., we still need to bring a few warriors to ensure everyone's safety. Udian is one, and your follower is almost half a legend, so he can be counted as one. I don't know if the natural god cult can be counted as half, but these can all be justified. Gretel nodded quickly. Vilby smiled slightly and continued. For the rest, let them sign up by themselves. Submit the research plan, required materials, and the goals to be achieved. Only those who meet the conditions are allowed to go. Those who do not meet the conditions or are inexplicable will be screened out. Then, there are too many people who meet the conditions. Publish the quota for going to the dragon tomb and let them auction it with research points, Archmage Vilby said without even thinking about it. They can only use the research points of this tower to exchange for resources, exchange for the opportunity to go to the dragon tomb, or exchange for something else. They decide by themselves. If you spend it all this time, don't think about it next time. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1559. There is also a precedent for the Parliament to explore a specific place, especially a specific resource area, and compete for quotas. On the Parliament's redemption list, this item is titled Resource Exploration. Some can be exchanged for useful contribution points, some can be exchanged with certain magic materials, and some can be exchanged for useful contribution points plus materials. For more common resource locations, you can exchange them directly. For some particularly rare, newly developed, or particularly dangerous resource areas, the exploration qualifications must be auctioned, and the explorer's level, ability, aptitude, etc. must also be considered. It is not something that can be taken casually. Greed had a low level before and had been wandering outside since level 9. He had never noticed these details. Now that the senior sister had told him the plan, he breathed a sigh of relief and immediately pushed the task away. Tailing, help me communicate with Mr. Herman Cruz and download the existing rules for resource exploration methods. Then modify them according to them, ask the senior sister to take a look, and finally hang out. Yes, sir. On the magic crystal screen, the tower spirit flashed several times and then became quiet. Not long after, the tower spirit's emotionless mechanical voice sounded in Archmage Vilby's laboratory. The quota auction plan was put out, and the results were truly outstanding. The vast majority of magicians touch their pockets and think about their research progress and research points. Even if they are reluctant to leave, they have to quit. A small number of magicians looked at the items in their hands, and then looked at the other exchange materials hanging in the magic tower, the rare minerals, high-level magic materials sent by the Dragon Clan, and the good things offered by various dragon blood tribes. Forget it, 1,000 birds in the forest is not as good as a bird in hand. If you study it in the Mage Tower, you will make great progress without breaking your head and robbing the dragon tomb. Finally, there was one from the evocation system, Archmage Mensk. He is the 17th level mage with the strongest attack power under Archmage Philby, with both lightning and fire skills. This time I went to the dragon tomb to understand the different energy changes and prepare myself for half a step into the legend. Furthermore, Archmage Philby was worried and secretly moved some of her research points over, asking him to protect Gretel. Then the curse system created one, also to sense the energy changes deep in the dragon tomb. There are two changes in the transformation department. One is to observe the keel, hoping to contribute to the transformation of the dragon shape. The other one is an alchemist, identifying various materials, hoping to pick up some good ones along the way. In the end, the necromancers had a solid fight, with bones flying everywhere and skulls and bolas flying wildly in the basement, before they finally decided on the two spots. Dragon Tomb. Dragon Tomb. That's Dragon Tomb. It's nothing to go to Elf Island. If you don't go there, you won't go there. Anyway, if you go there, you'll be stuck in a corner. You can't go anywhere, and you can't enter any secret places. But what about Dragon Tomb? That is the ultimate holy place for necromancers. Even if you don't touch a few dragon bones or awaken the undead dragon, it's still good to see. Who doesn't have research points in hand? Who doesn't have undead creatures as thugs in their hands? Such a rare opportunity, grab it, must grab it? If they go in once with the Plague Lord and know the way, and the dragon clan sees that they are obedient and won't cause trouble in the dragon tomb, can they be allowed to go in a few more times? Judging from the attitude of the dragon clan, as long as you don't steal the dragon bones or various dragon clan parts, the dragon tomb can basically still be entered and exited, as long as you live and die. When the time comes, he. So in the end, when the legendary golden dragon Brahim Targaryen arrived, he saw 9 people standing neatly next to Gretel. 2 warriors, one on the left and one on the right, stood behind Gretel. One was wearing light armor, with 2 swords hanging at his waist. His grey-green cloak was fluttering slightly, and the color was shining, as if it was changing color at any time. The other one is stocky, more than 2 meters tall, wearing heavy armor, with his head and face covered in it. He was carrying a big stick that was taller than its owner on his shoulders, and his body was slightly turned sideways, as if he was trying to block Gretel with his body. To Gretel's left, an old man with grey hair stood there with a smile on his face, holding an oak staff. Just standing there, the wild grass and trees around him, as well as the earth and the breeze, all moved slightly with his breathing. Looking at the thin body, Jin Huanglong felt the explosive power from his body. Even the oak stick was not without pain when it hit him. Targaryen nodded to the other party, and then looked at Gretel's right hand. There were 6 magicians in a row standing next to each other, one in a red robe, one in a white robe, one in a blue robe, one in a thick coarse cloth work clothes to facilitate movement, and 2 in black robes, wanting to cover their faces. Well, the 10 we agreed on were 10, not one more, and we didn't have to add a few more spots just because of our connections. As for the demons and undead creatures standing behind the magicians, they are all consumables and can be lost at will, and are not included in the protection list. The legendary golden dragon shook its scales with satisfaction, and a piece of white light flew over the golden dragon scales, like the rising Sunday. Just as he was about to open his mouth to let the group of people set off, he suddenly felt something was wrong. There seemed to be not 10 powerful life reactions, but 11? The oak staff in the nature walker's hand does not count. Although it is also a living body, it is connected to the nature walker's breath, so it can only be counted as 1. But what happened to the wooden stick in Gretel's hand? I have some contact with him, but not much, and that aura is obviously heading towards the legend. He stared at it carefully, and Gretel raised his head and smiled coquettishly at him. Jin Huanglong didn't say anything at all. Take him with you if you want. It's better to have more legendary combat power. As long as he sleeps well and doesn't cause trouble, he can pretend he didn't see it. The dragon tomb is in the northernmost part of Dragon Island, deep into the sea, almost at the end of the world, he said sternly. Follow me and don't run around. We are flying at full speed. It will take about 7 days and 7 nights. After entering the dragon tomb, everyone will stay on my back. You can only come down and move around after I ask you to do so. If you don't obey the command, you are responsible for life and death. The magicians gave confused answers. The golden dragon Targaryen nodded, introduced each other to the magicians, flapped his wings, and slowly floated into the air. On the ground, an alchemist in coarse work clothes quickly released an alchemy boat and called for everyone to board. The hatch was closed, and the small boat flew up closely behind Jin Huanglong, flying into the wake behind the giant dragon to save some energy. When the boat flew smoothly, a group of magicians had time to whisper to each other and whispered. What kind of dragon is he? You just reported his name, not his race. It seems to be a golden dragon. It's not like that. The dragon scales of the golden dragon are more brilliant. They should be pure gold. This golden color has a layer of white light floating on it. It should be a branch of the golden dragon. Alien dragons. It is said that dragons are particularly prone to alien dragons. Marriage between different races, inheritance from parents during the egg conception process, what the mother ate, and the energy field during the incubation process. In short, it is easy to mutate. While they were discussing, they saw Elder Nox taking out a book and flipping through it. Turn a few pages, look out the window, turn a few more pages, look out the window again. Opposite, the magician of the transformation department took out a notebook exactly the same, and looked out while checking it. Soon, the two moved their seats, sat together, and started discussing in a low voice. Gretel. No, if I help the dragon clan with chromosome enhancement, do I still have to consider the issue of mutation? Boss, you dragons are so strong, and you still work so hard to gain mutations. What is the point of this? Or is it that there are too many chromosomes, and if one is not careful in splicing, a mutation can occur? Help. Greet struggled for a long time, and finally shook his head, planning to let the boat straighten out naturally at the bridge and not think about these things for the time being. The boat gradually became quiet, and the magicians each stuck to the window, looking into the distance, looking at the rare scene of Dragon Island. The further north you go, the colder and barren the ground becomes, and the less green it becomes. As far as the eye can see, there is gray-brown soil and moss. After flying for 2 days, we left the mainland and arrived on the sea. The water was dark and dead, with only large and small white drifting ice adding a little life to the environment. Continuing to fly north, the sky becomes darker and darker, and the sun hangs faintly on the distant horizon, not even setting until late at night. However, even such continuous sunshine cannot bring much heat and vitality to the earth. It's getting colder and colder outside, the alchemist mage operating the boat said solemnly. The energy used to maintain the temperature of the boat has increased from 5% at the time of departure to 15%. Life is becoming less and less. Elder Nox leaned back in his chair with a deep expression on his face. Nature's feedback to me is getting lower and lower, and its vitality is becoming less and less active. Moreover, it's not that the aura of death is strong, the key is that there is too little life. The faces of the two necromancers also didn't look good. There is death only when there is life. Without life, even the breath of death is not abundant. Wait. They suddenly raised their heads at the same time and looked into the distance. In a place that is far away, where the spiritual power extends to the end and cannot be felt, there is something there is something so strong. Next to Greet's seat, he changed his leaves from bright red to dark brown, trying hard to pretend to be an inconspicuous maple tree, and shook his head. What is there? We are almost there. Golden Dragon Targaryen suddenly turned back. The warm white light shone on the dragon scales and passed over the boat, effectively brushing away the haze in everyone's mind. We're not far from the dragon tomb. Everyone, get ready and raise your defenses. Put away the boat and get on my back. There was a sound of rustling and chaos. Then, Archmage Mensk of the Plasticity Department used a group flying technique and led everyone onto the back of the Golden Glory Dragon. Everyone was shrouded in the white gold light on the dragon's back, and followed the golden dragon to suddenly rise up and fly into the void. Passing through colored light and turbulent currents, after several consecutive layers of barriers, it suddenly plunged straight down. Ah! The moment they entered the dragon tomb, everyone from Gretel to the legendary warrior Idion to the always cold necromancer couldn't help but shout loudly. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geolan 2020. Chapter 1560. Gretel stood on the back of Jinhuang dragon, stuck his head out from behind the dragon, and tried to look around. When the scene in front of him came into view, he held his breath at first, and then couldn't help but let out a wow. The maple stick he was holding in his right hand branched out a branch to pull the thorns on the back of Jinhuanglong, then branched out another branch to wrap around Gretel's waist, and then branched out another branch and passed over Gretel's head, far away. Reach out above the dragon's back. The branches and leaves were like the eyes of the maple tree. As Gretel looked forward, the branches and leaves rustled. Although he didn't shout out directly, following the contractual connection between the two parties, Gretel also heard an uncontrollable cry. Wow! Fortunately, I came out with you. I said I should have come out with you. If I hadn't come out with you, how could I have seen such a scene? It's amazing. It's amazing. Swish, 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 swish. The movement was not small, but no one on the dragon's back noticed it. From Idion to all the magicians, they all tilted to the left or right, trying their best to open their eyes wide and see the scene in the dragon tomb. It was a mirror, or rather, a double-layered ring that occupied all the space in front of me, shining with brilliance. The outer layer is a round, regular, and flawless rainbow-colored ring that reaches up to the sky and connects to the earth below, lying across the clear blue sky. Tranquil, clear, and slightly rippling. And inside this rainbow-colored halo, there is a soothing arc-shaped light belt, with both sides rising slightly upward and passing through the halo gracefully. At the bottom of the arc-shaped light belt, a blazing sun hangs straight in the sky. Surrounding the sun, a smaller but brighter rainbow ring hangs in the center of the outer ring. The rainbow ring hangs in the sky, moving and still, the colorful stream of light is unfathomable. On both sides of the rainbow ring, where the arc-shaped light belt passes through, there is a bright pearl on each side, like the reflection of the sun on the rainbow ring. At the top of the small rainbow ring, a dazzling narrow bright spot looks like a flying saucer. It's like wearing a gentle and bright crown for the rainbow ring, and it's also like an eye staring at these visiting guests. This is. Greet woke up from the shock of the beautiful scenery, breathing heavily, and tried to use his mental strength to detect the fluctuations ahead. Is this the gate to Dragon Tomb? Or, is it the spell defense at the entrance to Dragon Tomb? Are these two rainbow rings like the Elf Island, a double-layered rainbow light mystery lock? What is that arc-shaped light strip? Is it an attack, a defense, or a passage left for them? Behind him, the mental power surged back and forth, almost turning into a storm. Forget about the other magicians, the one from the conjuration system was trembling and almost jumped off the back of the golden dragon and threw himself directly into the rainbow ring in front. A mirror swirls in the sky. This legendary mysterious lock actually exists, I actually saw it, woo, woo. He was so excited that he couldn't speak for a while, so he squatted on the dragon's back and started to cry loudly. No one in the entire Dragon Tomb exploration team had any intention of comforting him. They all concentrated on staring ahead. The golden dragon spreads its wings and flies out. Neither up nor down, neither left nor right, impartial, straight towards the blazing sun in the swirling sky of one who a mirror. As they flew closer and closer, the white gold light on their bodies became brighter and brighter, enveloping them like a cage. Gradually, Greet's mental power could no longer be revealed, and other magicians could no longer sense elemental changes. All you can see is the surrounding light flashing, lightning, flames, acid, black mist, and all kinds of forces hitting the platinum cover, but they are completely unable to shake the Jin Huanglong's defense. So strong. Greet swallowed and whispered. Behind him, Udian nodded silently. It's really strong, too strong. If it were him, even though he was already a legend, he probably wouldn't be able to break through this defense and would be hanged inside. As for keeping Gretel in this mysterious lock, that's even more unthinkable. After flying for who knows how long, they finally broke through the mystery, broke through the phantom, and their eyes lit up again. This time, all the magicians couldn't help shouting again. Ah! That's a city. A city that covers a vast area, even when viewed from a high altitude, the scale is extremely astonishing. The roads in the city are crisscrossed and square, like a chessboard. The road is wide, and you can tell at a glance that even if several giant dragons walk side by side, it will not feel narrow. Between the roads and the grid drawn by the roads, there are houses, gardens, pools, and trees, high and low. Some look like residences, some look like military camps, and some look like schools. In the center of the city, a group of buildings stands tall, with roofs stacked on top of each other, and more than a dozen spears dotted around, forming a rough magic circle shape. Together with the surrounding high walls and courtyards, I don't know if they are palaces or temples. Even the smallest house is more than 10 meters high, and a single room is at least several thousand square meters. The stone walls are thick and the roof is strong, so even a dragon can live comfortably inside. These alone are not enough to make everyone scream. What shocked Gretel and all the magicians was that the city was like a golden city. Bright golden roofs, dark golden walls, fountains, ponds, and canals flowing through the city as brilliant as golden water. Pale golden leaves and trunks, golden red flowers bloom all over the garden. What's even more amazing is that the city is not located on the ground, but high in the clouds. A brilliant light shines from the clouds below, shining on the houses and roads, and also stirs up the clouds above the city, covering the entire city with a golden light. This is. Greet swallowed, then swallowed again. Such a big golden city? Even if it's not all made of gold, but just plated with a layer of gold, how much gold will be used? Or dragon-sized houses, dragon-sized roads, dragon-sized palaces and spires, is there so much gold on the entire earth? Or some dragon clan flew into space and brought an asteroid made entirely of gold? By the way, this is the Dragon Tomb. Is this golden city the place where the dragon clan buries their own kind? Is that palace or temple a place where they worship their fellow tribesmen? So much gold. The magicians behind him were breathing heavily one by one. Especially the alchemist, he just wanted to jump off the dragon's back and jump directly into the golden city. Gold. Gold. Make golems, build mage towers, build airships, and build all kinds of magic equipment. Gold is always indispensable. Use as much as you have. If you really can't use it as the energy pool of the mage tower. Apply it thickly, then apply it thickly. It is said that Nevis is currently trial producing the Well of Eternity, and that company is also a big money maker. Even the golden dragon Targaryen was a little bit overwhelmed. He flew around the golden city reluctantly, and flew around again, and flew around again, and finally raised his head and let out a long groan, trying his best to gain altitude. At this height, Gretel and others climbed on the dragon's back and looked back and down. The scenery in front of me changes, and the city below keeps getting smaller. Soon, Gretel's eyes straightened again. The golden city was not the dragon tomb he thought, but just a part of the remains of a giant dragon. The giant dragon lay prone on the ground, its wings folded, its head and tail curled up, as if to protect something. The skin and flesh are rotten, the bones are white, and the golden light in its chest is the golden city that I just saw. This is the ancestral golden dragon Ezekiel Grover Pabrico Amador. Jin Huanglong's voice was like thunder, and he said a long name with a deep sadness in his voice. What you see is the small world he built with his life's strength. After tens of thousands of years, his body has decayed, and all the creatures in the small world have died. Only the city is still cohesive. He put the small world here to protect his descendants. If a tomb robber walks into the dragon tomb and sees this golden city, he will often get lost in it and will no longer disturb the peace of the younger generations. Greed swallowed subconsciously. He knew about the small world. After it became a legend and the meditation world became substantial, it would cut off a part of the main world to form its own small world. But the teacher's small world seems to be only as big as 1 square kilometer. This dragon, his small world, what level was he in his lifetime? Legendary 2nd level? Legendary 3rd level? Demigod? Or the true god? Even such a strong man will eventually fall. He couldn't help but let out a long sigh, secretly lost in thought. On the dragon's back, Udian let go of the handle of the knife, clasped his hands slightly in front of his chest, lowered his head and paid tribute to the dragon senior. Elder Nox held the oak staff tightly, and the green leaves on the top of the staff drooped down one by one, as if to express the grief of the owner. In the plasticity system, the conjuration system, and the transformation system, each magician held his breath and lowered his head, saying nothing. Even the 2 necromancers gave up their thoughts on getting some undead creatures and bowed their heads silently, paying tribute to this dragon senior and the great death itself. Only Bernard was still naive. Apart from the initial gasp, he had no other reaction. Greed was worried and quietly threw a spell over, and heard him keep muttering. "This bone is too big, I can't lift it, I have to find a smaller one." Gretel didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Forget it, you can't have too high demands on barbarians. The advancement route of barbarians has nothing to do with understanding the world, understanding nature, etc. It is purely about breaking through in the physical body. If it is easier to go back, find him a dragon bone that is more suitable for him and can resonate with him. When the time comes, rely on the power and memory in the dragon bone to lead him to a breakthrough. The golden glory dragon Targaryen led everyone upward, and flew for an unknown distance before leaving the remains of the ancestral golden dragon behind and never seeing them again. Gretel took a breath and looked down cautiously. "So we're at Dragon Tomb, right? When can we land? When can I look for dragon souls? What we just saw are obviously not something we can use. The monthly ticket list has fallen again. During the double monthly ticket period, I have the audacity to ask for a monthly ticket again. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1561. Except for those of our dragon clan who die outside and cannot come back, anyone who can foresee his own death will try his best to return to Dragon Island and be buried in a dragon tomb. Flying over the remains of the ancestral golden dragon Ezekiel, the golden dragon Targaryen also gradually lowered its altitude and flew downwards. While flying, he explained to Gretel. The dragon tomb can protect our sleep and prevent our bodies from being damaged by the outside world, and when our power escapes in the dragon tomb, it will also flow back to the dragon island through the dragon tomb, making our descendants stronger. Greed looked left and right. The magicians around him were all concentrating on their surroundings, as if they didn't hear Jin Huanglong's voice at all. Perhaps it is true that this legendary Jin Huanglong Sr. said some words to him alone. In his opinion, others are outsiders and are not qualified to hear the secrets of the dragon clan. He pretended not to notice, just nodded, and activated the communication technique to ask Jin Huanglong for advice. So senior, where should we go next? Where is the appropriate place to go to request the dragon soul? Is it to the tombs of the legendary seniors, or to other places? Even if the legendary dragons die, their souls are extremely tough and will take a long time to wear away, Jin Huanglong pondered. The dragon soul under the legend will dissipate relatively quickly. It is possible to find a dozen places, but you may not be able to harvest it. It depends on your needs. If you are not in a hurry, I will take you slowly. Turn around. Gretel couldn't make his own decision on this issue. After Jin Huanglong flew for most of the day and landed for a short rest, he discussed it with the magicians, especially the two necromancers. It is extremely rare that two necromancers have differences. Legendary. Of course it is a legend. Even if only a little bit of the legendary dragon soul is dissipated, it is still extremely powerful in nature. If you are not afraid of moving, you can easily survive if you move it into a dragon egg. I'm afraid it's not easy for the dragon eggs to survive. Another necromancer expressed his opposition clearly. What kind of intensity is the legendary dragon soul? Even if most of it is dissipated, it is not something ordinary creatures can bear. Even the dragon clan may not be able to bear it, let alone the dragon beast eggs. A big church pillar is crammed into a small shabby house. The small shabby house must not fall apart. Gretel looked at this and that, and felt that what they said made sense. As for who is more reasonable, or whose experimental plan is more likely to succeed, that is beyond the scope of his knowledge. It's no joke to have specializations in the arts. So, where are the others? He looked around and asked the other magicians for their opinions. Archmage Mensk of the plastic energy system held the staff in his hand, took 2 slight steps outward, and felt the fluctuations of the surrounding elements, with a serious expression on his face. If I walk near the remains of non-legendary dragons, I should be able to break up the elemental storm and protect everyone's safety. It shouldn't be difficult to spread out a little bit and explore some resources. However, if you explore the remains of the legendary dragon clan, you must always be under the protection of the dragon and cannot wander around at will. By then, the harvest in terms of resources will be less. Relatively few, but high level. The alchemist of the transmutation department shook his head in disapproval. Why do you all take the risk to come to the dragon tomb? Is it just for some materials below legendary? Those materials are also available outside. Are they worth paying such a high price? This is true. 3 or 4 magicians around nodded silently, and even Elder Knox said softly. If it's not particularly dangerous, it's best to walk around the remains of the legendary dragon clan. Everyone is at this level and hopes to advance to legend. It would be best to gain more insights. We must go to the legendary remains, Maple Servilia also chimed in. As he spoke, he unfolded a little of the tree crown and woven it into a small umbrella above Gretel's head, shaking it with a rustling sound. Don't worry, I can protect people too. As long as I'm here, at least one-on-one protection will be provided, no problem. Since everyone's attitude was basically the same, Greet went to see Jin Huanglong and stated his requirements in a formal manner. Golden Dragon Targaryen nodded very generously. I originally wanted to take you to a few more places and gain more insights. That old man Batista asked me specifically, saying that at your current stage, it's just the right time to broaden your horizons and do some work for you to advance to legend. Prepare. When you become a legend, many legendary dragon clans will need your help with the births and the awakening of the young dragons. Is this an exclusive benefit for a dragon son-in-law or a dragon doctor? But having said that, if you can really advance to legend, the power of many spells will also increase accordingly. Even those that had no effect on legend can now have an effect. His ability to successfully advance is indeed a major benefit to the dragon clan. As for the other magicians, just by the way, just be a favor. Now that he had decided on the direction, Jin Huanglong led everyone and flew forward. The further they flew, the colder they became. Gradually, Gretel felt that the constant cold and heat resistance on his body could not withstand the cold, so he had to add another layer of defense. Which senior should we go to? Such a strong air conditioner, Aji. Is he a senior who is good at ice and snow? Aji. 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 It's a third-level legendary silver dragon golden dragon Targaryen turned around and stared at him quietly with pure golden eyes. Speaking of which, that person is not an outsider, he is Cynthia's grandfather, Sarah's, well, as you humans call him, he is his maternal great-grandfather. That old guy Batista told me that if I could find some inheritance, it would be enough to give Cyrilla some insights and make her advancement smoother. Greet shut up immediately. He is still confident in his ability to advance to legend. After all, he has accumulated so many research fields in his previous life. But he was not sure whether Cyrilla could advance. This matter is not useful just by accumulating resources. I have not seen so many elves and dragons with long lifespans who have been stuck on the edge of the legendary threshold all their lives, unable to get up. Although he can lead Cyrilla to study hard, it is always good to have more inheritance and more confidence. After Jin Huanglong said this, he lightly shook his wings and flew forward like an arrow. The abundant heat on the golden dragon's body overflowed through the gaps in its scales. Soon Gretel shivered and his whole body warmed up. Over the wilderness, over the clouds, over the sea. The land in front of me seemed to spread out endlessly, and I didn't know if the dragon tomb was really vast or if it had flown into some small world. I don't know if I've been flying for an hour or two. In front of me, there are solitary peaks standing straight at the end of the earth. Jin Huanglong suddenly slowed down, plunged downwards, and turned around and said, "Get ready, it's coming." Greet and everyone else quickly brushed off all kinds of defenses for themselves. The golden dragon had already fallen to the ground, shook slightly, and turned into a human form. Greet floated down, put his feet on the ground, raised his head, and couldn't help but sigh. Ah! So grand! So spectacular! What they saw in the distance just now was not a lonely peak, but a silver dragon that had been dead for many years. The tail is supported on the ground, and the head is raised high, pointing straight to the sky. A dragon is just a mountain peak. The mountain is covered with ice and snow. I don't know if it is the dragon body that has not yet rotted, or the ice and snow gathered around the silver dragon. Go, go! Jin Huanglong waved his hand and said calmly. Gretel subconsciously turned around and looked at the magicians around him. Are we going to climb a mountain? No, a dragon. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geolan 2020. Chapter 1562. The Strong Sea Monster Leader adds 4 updates. Golden Dragon Targaryen stood there and waved his hand, showing no intention of following. Greet was stunned for a moment, and could only turn to the magicians around him, and said bravely, "Then let's go there." "We are going over, not you." Archmage Mensk stretched out his arm to stop him unceremoniously. "Are you kidding me? When I came here, Archmage Philby gave me a lot of warnings. Others can take risks, but he can't. Things can happen to others, but Greet must not get into trouble. These hundreds of people are all pointing to him to take the lead in taking over the project. If something happens to him, everyone should go back to Nevis." Greet also knew his importance and adaptability. He nodded, took 2 steps towards Jin Huanglong, and stood still. Seeing him like this, Archmage Mensk finally breathed a sigh of relief and softened his tone. Let's explore the road first to see what's going on ahead. Once we've made arrangements and made sure we can go up ahead, we'll come to pick you up. For now, you stay here, Lord Targaryen will protect you. As he spoke, he glanced over secretly and saw the tall elf standing with his hands behind his back. His short white blonde hair pointed toward the sky, and the tips of his hair remained motionless. Well, I didn't nod, and fortunately I didn't shake my head either. Basically, this means acquiescence. Archmage Mensk stopped talking, rubbed his heels against the ground, and took 1 step back, 2 steps, 3 steps. The group of mages followed him back. He took about 10 steps back and stood outside Jin Huanglong's defensive circle. Something had really happened, and he was within a short distance that could be covered in 1 step. Don't rush to set off now, but start building the magic circle. Archmage Mensk waved his hand, and 5 fireballs formed an array, 1 in the middle and 4 on the side, spinning out. It flew 100 meters away, exploded with a bang, and the blazing fire swept across everything, melting even the frozen soil on the ground, and quickly pushed out a circle with the detonation point as the center. He clapped his hands, indicating that his work was over. Then, in the transformation system and the conjuration system, the 2 magicians looked at each other and nodded to each other. The magician of the change department raised his hand, and dozens of discs, square boxes, and long poles fell down like a goddess scattering flowers, forming an array on the land spread out by the explosion. The distance, angle, and orientation between each magic instrument are exactly the same, as if they were measured with a ruler. Then, the great mage of the conjuration system raised his hand. In an instant, a ball of light exploded in the air, interacting with the magic equipment below, pulling out a curtain of light that fell upside down like a big bowl. The light curtain disappeared as soon as it appeared, and the magic instruments sank into the ground and disappeared. There is only a vague circle of colorful light embedded in the ice. It is almost invisible unless you look carefully. Even so, the broken ice and mud on the ground immediately quieted down and stopped rolling around. The frozen soil solidified, became smooth, and even had edges drawn out to create a slight anti-slip effect. With sharp eyes, Greed saw a piece of broken ice outside the aperture, which was picked up by the wind and smashed against the aperture. Once it crosses that boundary, it silently breaks into fine powder and disappears. After the defensive circle was drawn up, the magicians filed out and walked into the circle. They each took out tables, chairs, golems, and undead creatures, arranged them one by one, and then started tinkering. The 2 light spots fluttered away from the defensive circle and flew in the direction of the silver dragon's corpse. A light screen unfolded in front of the conjuration master. A group of masters came over to look at it, and while watching, they wrote and drew. The light point flew straight towards the lonely peak ahead. At a distance of about 20 meters, the light screen began to shake and distort, making it difficult to see the shape. The conjuration master frowned and made 2 gestures. The 2 light spots went straight forward, approaching 15 meters, and exploded with a bang. The second light point quietly retreated, and when it retreated to about 25 meters, the light screen stabilized. Then, following the control of the great mage of the conjuration system, it flew high, and flew around in a circle, taking in a panoramic view of the entire solitary peak. Then, the alchemist threw 3 flying golems, and the round metal birds spread their wings and flew out of the circle of light, heading towards the silver dragon's solitary peak. The birds' eyes emitted 2 rays of red light, crisscrossing each other, falling on the solitary peak and then bouncing back, scanning out richer details. When the little bird flew back, there were 2 more golden skeletons, galloping towards the mountain peak. Greed had changed from looking up, to wandering around, looking around, and then to tables, chairs and sofas spread out on the floor, asking Jin Huanglong to sit down, asking Idian to sit down, and then asking Bernard to sit down. Germany cooks something to eat? The golden dragon Targaryen was smiling and didn't feel annoyed at all, nor did he dislike the magicians for stalling on time. He also commented on Griddle. They are quite cautious. We are all high-level mages. Of course we have to be cautious in front of legends. Gretel bowed respectfully. Targaryen smiled more kindly. Caution is right, let them be. Well, what's coming? A demon doll with a round head, round arms, and round legs was holding a box that was taller than it was. It was rolling towards the side on wheels under its feet. Rolled in front of Greet, looked around, and put the box on the coffee table. With a beeping sound, the lid of the box opened automatically, and the walls of the box fell down on all sides, revealing a concrete and tiny solitary peak. From top to bottom, covered with translucent ice and snow, a vivid dragon shape appears. The dragon's head was raised to the sky, its eyes were empty, and it was still roaring up to the sky with awe-inspiring power. The dragon's backbone, dragon's ribs, dragon's wings, dragon's claws, dragon's tail, and white bones are thick and clean, and they still have a fighting posture. From the lowest foot of the mountain to the highest mountain top, the light spots were scattered and scattered, as if the dead silver dragon was covered with another layer of dragon scales. If you look closely, you will see moss, weeds, tender saplings, and even flowers blooming stubbornly. There are birds and beasts digging holes in the ice and snow of the lonely peak, coming in and out, looking for food, hiding, and hunting. The most eye-catching thing is that at the top of the mountain, deep in the hollow dragon head, there is a faint light, rising and falling, constantly fluttering. Jin Huanglong took one look and smiled. They are quite interesting. I am afraid that you will be bored, so I specially made a model for you to see. Well, this energy scan is quite good and quite exquisite. Even the dragon soul is scanned. Ah, is this the dragon soul? Gretel suddenly became nervous. He supported his knees with both hands and leaned forward, almost lying inside the faucet to look at the floating light. At such a deep place, can they get in? Will they need to dig a tunnel? Can they dig it out? Will the defense of this lonely peak match the legendary silver dragon? Will they not be able to dig it out? Bar. This light doesn't look very strong. After all these years, how strong is the dragon soul? Will it still be as strong as the legend? Will it hurt them? Will he dislike the necromancer? By the way, what kind of equipment should be used for dragon soul? As he spoke, he became worried again. He stood up straight and looked into the defensive formation on the opposite side, almost unable to bear the urge to walk over. Udian held him down. Sit down. If you're really worried, Ms. Servilia and I can just go for a walk. You don't need to go out. I'll pick you up when it's safe. While speaking, the magicians had already started taking action. The three magicians of the evocation, conjuration, and transformation departments each applied a layer of defense to themselves, their bodies flashed with brilliance, and they strode out of the defensive array. Elder Nox took out a fur cloak from somewhere and wrapped it around his body. He was dressed like an old bear and walked beside them with an oak staff. The green leaves on the top of the oak staff did not sway, and it was obvious that the defense circle around him was quite strong. As for the two necromancers, they were still huddled in the defensive circle without any movement. However, two skeletons took the lead and had already rushed to the bottom of the mountain. The bone horse's caca dispersed and formed a circle around the skeleton. The two skeletons used their hands and feet to climb up. It doesn't look very dangerous. I'll pick you up later, and you can go take a look. Idian kept watching attentively, and after speaking, he stretched out his hand and took the maple staff from Greet's hand. Jump out and run towards the mountain. Hey, I'm here. Wait for me. With quick steps, he rushed to Elder Nox's side in one leap or two, and then protected him as he moved forward. It was okay when we reached the bottom of the mountain, but the higher we climbed, the heavier it became under our feet. Idion only felt that his whole body was suffocated, and his steps became slower and slower. He had to use his mental strength to call for the support of the surrounding nature. Elder Nox still had time to look left and right, holding a small shovel in his hand, picking up some ice and snow from the east, and some soil from the west. He climbed a few steps to the left, dug out a piece of moss and put it in the box, and then climbed to the cliff on the right. Go up and dig up a wildflower. Idion. Is this silver dragon picking people? Is it true that those who are closer to nature will put less pressure on them, while those who are alienated from nature will put more pressure on them? He climbed up the dragon's neck with all his strength, and climbed to a position close to the dragon's head in one breath. He could no longer climb up. Wanting the maple tree Servilia to help her, she lowered her head and saw that the maple tree quietly stretched out its roots and penetrated deeply into the ground. I don't know whether it is absorbing nutrients from the soil, or whether it is directly piercing into the dragon's bones and absorbing the scattered flesh and blood of the legendary silver dragon. In short, it seems that it has not heard his needs at all, pretending to be a tree. Idion is like this, and the magicians have an even harder time climbing. The Archmage Mensk of the Evocation Department climbed to the middle of the dragon's neck. Panting, he dug a nest in the ice and snow and embedded himself in it. He could no longer climb up. The two great mages of the Conjuration Department and the Transformation Department were slightly stronger than him. They seemed to have climbed 2 more cervical vertebrae and could not lift their feet. When the 2 skeletons climbed up the mountainside, they exploded, one bone to the east and one to the west. The golem sent by the alchemist followed behind, and they couldn't pick it up even if they were too busy. Seeing that their skeletons were unable to climb up, the 2 necromancers looked at each other, sighed, and had no choice but to walk out of the defensive formation and climb up with all their might. However, when they went into battle in person, they were no better than skeletons. Halfway through the climb, the undead creatures used as assistants lay down. Climbing a little higher than the mountainside, less than 2/3 of the way up, I was out of breath. Spreading his limbs, he lay on the ice and snow. Seeing a snow hare jumping up to them and staring at them with its eyes, the 2 magicians could only blink and couldn't move their fingers to touch it. How's it going? Do you want to help? Elder Nox collected enough samples from the mountain peak and quickly slid down on the ice and snow. The 2 necromancers lay on the ground, out of breath. No. Help us, take us down. I can't do it anymore, I can't do it anymore, just lying here, my eyesight has gone dark and my mind can't move. In this state, even if Elder Nox takes him to the top of the mountain, he probably won't be able to do any work, and he won't be able to use any magic. Elder Nox looked around. The oak staff was lowered, and the branches on the top of the staff were growing rapidly. 5 branches on the left and 5 branches on the right wrapped around the thighs, waists, and shoulders of the 2 magicians respectively, and were pulled upwards. Soon, the 2 necromancers stood up straight, one on the left and one on the right, sticking to the edge of the oak staff. Being supported by Elder Nox, he took 3 steps and 2 steps at a time, ran down the lonely peak, and came towards Greet. Mage Nordmark, you must help us. As soon as they hit the ground, the 2 necromancers regained their vitality. When asking for help from Gretel, she burst into tears. This is all for the project. We can't climb up, so I have to ask you, then, this is the soul box. Just put it on the top of the mountain, closest to the dragon soul, and activate the magic. This is a magic scroll. After it is activated, you still need to use your spiritual power to guide it. Here are the detailed instructions. We can't help it. Your natural affinity is relatively strong. Please be sure to give it a try. What can Gretel say? If he doesn't take charge of his own projects, what else can he do? In particular, Ioldian and Elder Nox nodded to him from left to right. It's not dangerous. You should be able to get up there. It won't be a big problem. As long as I'm here, I will protect you, at least to the area close to the dragon's head. Beyond that, well, Sister Servilia should be willing to help. Greet gritted his teeth and could only take the soul box and scroll, and walked out in the wind and snow. When I reached the foot of the mountain, I felt my heart beating like a drum and sweat was pouring out. Is this dragon soul so unfriendly to the outside world? After so many years, Long Wei is still so powerful? My immunity to mental attacks is already very strong. I already have the protection of the moon god, why am I still in such a mess? Or is my strength too low? Affinity with nature, calling nature seems to be of little use. The nature here is too silent and there is too little life. Never mind. Cheating. I can't believe you would be so harsh on your juniors. Gretel took a deep breath, stepped back dozens of steps, and began to transform into a dragon. In a moment, a young silver dragon more than 20 meters long with shining scales appeared in the snow, holding its head high and chanting. Hold head high. He flapped his wings, took off, grabbed the mountain with his 4 claws, and climbed up. In the dragon form, the pressure from the mountain was indeed much smaller, allowing him to climb to the dragon's neck smoothly. Oops, it looks like I still have some energy left, and I can still climb a little higher. Gretel silently praised himself. At this moment, the entire mountain peak shook violently, the ice and snow cracked, the grass, trees and moss attached to the mountain fell rustling, and snow foxes, snow rabbits, snow pigeons, and various insects and ants fled frantically. Greet, who was holding onto the mountain wall, subconsciously opened his eyes. What did I see? What did you see? Is it a dragon soul? Is that the dragon soul flying towards me? Such a huge dragon's mouth can swallow 2 of me when it is opened. You don't want to eat me, do you? Thanks to @jingling 1008 for tipping 100 starting coins. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geolan 2020. Chapter 1563. Greet raised his head, opened his mouth, and stared at the flying silver dragon silhouette. His whole person, no, the whole dragon froze. That silver dragon phantom, could swallow him whole just by opening its mouth. He is not in human form, but in the form of a young silver dragon. Not to mention, behind a huge head, there is an even bigger dragon body, dragon wings that cover the sky and the sun, and a dragon tail that rises high, almost reaching the sky. Is the legendary silver dragon that big? Is the legendary 3rd level silver dragon that big? The father-in-law and mother-in-law are not that big, and neither is Elder Batista. By the way, what level of legend is the Elder? Don't come here, I'm about to be swallowed, I'm not a real silver dragon, I just changed it like this through the transformation spell. Oh no, the dragon soul won't find out that I'm fake and get angry. Bar. Is it too late for me to return to my human form now? No, I roll down the mountain peak now and am far away. Is it still too late? His 4 claws dug tightly into the ice and snow on the mountain wall, and he had forgotten how to move. As for changing back to human form, communicating with the dragon soul, activating magic to put the dragon soul into the soul box, etc., they were all forgotten. There was silence in his ears, and all he could hear was the pounding of his heart. The sound of the wind, the exclamations of the magicians, the rustling of maple leaves, and the chirping of snow doves and snow rabbits were all inaudible. I don't know whether those people were suppressed by Long Wei and could no longer speak out or dared to speak out, or whether he himself had fallen into the spiritual world of the legendary dragon soul and could no longer sense the external situation. Before he could finish his thoughts, the huge dragon head had already jumped in front of him. Gretel clearly saw his own reflection in those ice plate-sized eyes, a thin little person standing there fixedly, no longer as long as the silver dragon's erected pupils. Hey, when did I change back to human form? Or is what you see directly my spiritual world and the essence of my soul? Don't get too close to me, I'm only a little older, but if you have to see clearly from such a close distance, aren't you going to become cross-eyed? Before he could finish his thoughts, the scene in front of him changed again. In an instant, he seemed to have left the lonely peak and was above the starry sky. He looked around, up, down, left, and right, and there was endless darkness everywhere. Only the stars shone far and far away, guiding him in the direction of progress. In a moment, a fireball shot from a distance and crossed diagonally in front of his eyes. Gretel looked in the direction of the fireball and saw that the land beneath his feet was peaceful and quiet, with green forests, blue ocean, and infinite vitality. And the fireball was wrapped in haze, carrying a huge ominous aura. It is conceivable that if that fireball falls on the earth, it will cause damage to the earth and the creatures on the earth, and even bring disaster. Without thinking, Gretel rushed forward, first exhaling, then all kinds of magic flashed, giving the fireball a head-on blow. And the haze on the fireball exploded, wrapping around him from all directions. Breath, magic, claw strike, wing beat, tail whip. Gretel fought with all his strength. After the battle, he was already scarred, his dragon scales were broken, and his right wing was hanging limply beside him. However, his results were also outstanding. The fireball had been completely extinguished and was like a big black iron ball that he stepped on. The surface of the iron ball was finally broken into pieces, and there were strange corpses all over the ground. I didn't know where they came from. Gretel used his dragon wings to dodge and sweep with his tail, sweeping all the corpses into the starry sky, and then pushed the big iron ball to fly towards the ground beneath his feet. Seeing that the barrier of Sky Dragon City was close in front of him, another meteor flew towards him, and he pounced on it again. You don't seem too surprised. A cool voice suddenly sounded. In my ears, in my heart. Greet blinked and finally came back to his senses. Did I pass the test? There is no test, I just want you to take a look, see what this world looks like. There was a little smile in that cool voice. The crisis in this world has never diminished, never. We, the Dragon Clan, have always protected this world, fought for it, and sacrificed for it. You are good, really good. Then can you come with me? Gretel finally realized that even if this legendary silver dragon died, his dragon soul would still be condensed. Intelligent, able to investigate, and able to talk to people and give feedback. Even if such a dragon soul is not reincarnated, even if it is reincarnated into a dragon beast egg, just asking him to stay by your side and asking for daily advice is still great. I won't go, I won't go. The sounds in my ears gradually faded away. The scene in front of Greet also changed from the vast starry sky to the snowy field with the howling cold wind. If I don't go, I'll die, so I won't bother. The sound is getting softer and softer, getting farther and farther away. Gretel subconsciously took a step up, but before he even landed, he felt a burst of snowflakes falling down. Greet shivered from the cold, feeling that the coldness reached deep into his heart, freezing his soul. He sneezed subconsciously, and a stream of ice slag spurted out from his nostrils, spinning and combining, and turned into the appearance of spell runes. The runes fell on the ground, and the ice and snow on the ground rippled and arched upwards. A dozen ice and snow creatures lined up in two semi-arcs in front of Gretel. Is this a spell given to me? You don't want to follow me, and you don't want to walk inside a dragon egg, so you gave me a spell. Gretel shrugged and didn't know what to say. He shook his scales, climbed a few more steps, stood on the top of the lonely peak, and transformed back into his human form. Ah, standing here, you can really see the mountains and small mountains at a glance. Looking around, Elder Nox returned to the same place, still digging a shovel in the east and a shovel in the west. Archmage Mensk worked hard to walk up a few more levels. At this moment, his arms were stretched out flat, his eyes were slightly closed, and the aura around him was rippling, and he was sensing the surrounding atmosphere. The alchemist of the transformation department no longer knew where the cat had gone. He only saw dozens of alchemical golems scattered out, clinking in all directions and constantly entering and exiting the ice peak. As for the two black-robed necromancers, they had already recovered. They walked out of the defensive formation and started climbing again. Climb 2 steps and take a break. Climb 2 steps and take a break. I have to dig and gain insights. I am very busy. I seem to be the most relaxed, it makes me happy to be recognized by the dragon clan. Gretel spread out his limbs, lay down, and listened quietly to the movements around him. The most important thing, the dragon soul has been given to him, so there is no need to be greedy for more. As for the keel, I just had an exchange with the dragon soul and it was really disrespectful to immediately dismantle the keel. Let's go to the next one. If the dragon soul is basically gone and is no longer in the world, let Bernard communicate with the dragon skeleton to see if there is any fate. He lay leisurely and contentedly, under the shade of a tree above his head. The oak staff held up the crown of the tree, and its roots penetrated deeply into the ground, struggling to absorb the breath of the dragon carcass. There was a buzzing sound below, and every magician was trying their best to collect resources and sense the legendary fluctuations. The golden light shone slightly in the distance, and it was the golden dragon lying on the ground, revealing its original form. Greed turned his head slightly and saw that the golden dragon was lying very stable, with its eyes slightly closed and its body rising and falling. Obviously, this legendary dragon was not in a hurry at all. Seeing that they were busy, he deliberately indulged them and simply took a nap. Gretel did not dare to delay. Dragons sleep only as long as they close their eyes for a day or two, a month or two is not much, and a year or two is not much. It's okay to let Jin Huanglong take a short rest. If he really falls asleep and is delayed here for 10 days and a half, how long will this trip to the dragon tomb take? Sarala is still waiting outside, and the entire research team is waiting outside. He jumped up, grabbed the oak staff, shook it twice, and ordered it to pull back to the root and return to the form of an eyebrow stick. Expand the flying technique, fly directly down from the peak, and find 2 necromancers. I've communicated with the dragon soul, but he doesn't want to leave. He would rather dissipate slowly. I'm thinking, let's forget it this time. Let's try again with the next giant dragon. Okay. The 2 necromancers nodded hurriedly. One of them dug himself up from the gap in the mountain wall, and the other climbed out of the snow pit, patting the snowflakes on his body and begging. Is it okay to stay here for 1 day? Just stay for 1 day and let everyone collect materials. Why does it look like a tour group? 1 day for this attraction, 1 day for that attraction, and you can only stay at that attraction for 4 hours, Gretel silently cursed, but still nodded. You guys get to work first, and I'll go find Lord Targaryen to discuss it. If he agrees, we'll stay for 1 day. If he doesn't, we have to leave early. We can't delay. There's still another place to go anyway. He flew out, through the howling cold wind. Alas, discussing with the legendary dragon cannot be in vain. The most important thing is not to be empty-handed. Fortunately, this time I came out and brought a lot of food and drinks. I asked Bernard to set up a pot and a grill. Everyone ate and chatted, and the day passed. He tried every means to buy time for the magicians to collect resources. On the distant elf island, the Lord of Thunder was talking to the elf princess. This kid, Gretel, is said to have gone to the dragon tomb. Last day for double monthly pass, please vote. Asking for a monthly ticket. Don't save your monthly passes, throw them to the cats. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1564. Little Gretel went to the dragon tomb. The elf princess smiled softly and followed the Lord of Thunder's eyes as she looked out the window with a bit of envy in her eyes. She has been on Yangju Island since she was born and has never traveled outside. The furthest thing from the island is just a 300-mile patrol around Yangju Island, taking care of the islands around Yangju Island. Like the Lord of Thunder, he traveled as far east as the Orc Kingdom and as far north as Dragon Island, almost all over the continents. Apart from envy, she could only eagerly listen to the stories to satisfy his appetite. And even the Lord of Thunder has never been to some places, such as Sky Dragon City and Dragon Tomb. The former was because the Dragon Clan didn't invite him, and the latter was because he couldn't get in. Without the Dragon Clan to guide him, he couldn't find the direction at all. How long has this kid been at Dragon Island? The Lord of Thunder's tone was strange, and it was extremely rare to have a bit of sourness. It's the Sky Dragon City, and it's the Dragon Tomb. I've been to the Sky Dragon City twice. Not only can he go to the Dragon Tomb by himself, but he can also take others with him. He can take 10 people with him. Really, not doing his job properly. What about his own research and his own advancement? The elf princess pursed her lips and smiled. The husband was full of pride in what he said. Although he was complaining and picky, he was also full of pride. Where he didn't go, his disciple went. What he failed to accomplish, his apprentice accomplished. When he was 19th level, he set out for Dragon Island and set foot on the legend there. His apprentice arrived at Dragon Island at 15th level, where he was treated as honored guest by a group of giant dragons. He wanted a mage tower to have a mage tower, and he wanted to go into the dragon tomb to hunt for treasures. Legend: the dragon personally escorts you. Okay, don't talk about the child's fault. If you really want to go, I can go now. Can I accompany you to Dragon Island? It just so happens that you also said that after you advance, you want to walk around. Then don't worry yet. The Lord of Thunder immediately turned around, took his wife's hand, and shook it gently. Aren't you about to become legendary? Wait until you advance and become stable before going. Otherwise, you will be busy on the road and will ignore any opportunity to advance. I think it's better to go out for a walk first. The elf princess's eyes were soft and she held her hand back. She had been stuck on the threshold of advancing to legend before, but she just didn't get the chance. After my brother's curse was cured, the situation got better day by day. The Well of Eternity is currently being rebuilt in the Secret Realm. According to the news coming from there, when the Well of Eternity is completed, it should be the day when he will advance to legend. After the heavy weight on her shoulders fell, she relaxed and felt that the threshold for advancement was loosened. It's just not certain when we can really cross that line. Maybe tomorrow, maybe next year, maybe 10 years from now. Walking around, gaining some knowledge. As for the opportunity to be a disciple, there is no need to mention this. It would be awkward to mention my husband. Anyway, it's not the first time. I was able to step into the 3rd level of legend before. First, I accumulated it. Second, I also did a lot of projects on Yangju Island and saw a lot of scenes I had never seen before, right? Besides, she leaned gently on the shoulder of the Lord of Thunder, and her cloud-like hair brushed her husband's cheek, bringing a fragrance of vegetation. I also want to have a child as soon as possible. I heard that it is not easy to have children when you reach legend. Their mother gave birth to 4 brothers and sisters, all 4 of whom were born before the legend. There are so many elven elders on Yangju Island, but only a handful of them give birth after advancing to legend. As a couple, Christine is already a legend, and a 3rd level legend at that. If she advanced to legend again, neither of them would have to hope to have children in their lifetime. Although legends have a long lifespan, there is a difference between having descendants and having no descendants. Don't think so much. The Lord of Thunder immediately hugged her tightly. I've reached the third level of legend. Even if I can't give birth to offspring, it's my problem, not yours. Besides, giving birth to offspring will cause a great burden on the mother's body. Maybe if you give birth to a child, it won't be your problem. Fa has crossed the threshold of legend. Compared with children, what I value more is being able to be with you for a long time. The two cuddled together and were quiet for a long time before they separated again and went to study, calculate, and study separately. As for whether to go to Dragon Island, when to go, and when to advance to legend, that is a matter for another day. Little Gretel actually went to the Dragon Tomb. The news spread to the elf secret realm, and Burbo was also a little envious. Dragon Tomb, the legendary Dragon Tomb. If he was on Dragon Island and doing research with his junior brother, would he be able to take advantage of it? Unfortunately, he can't. He hasn't finished his research here yet, and the Well of Eternity is still the last bit. Moreover, even if the research is completed, he cannot run to Dragon Island. He wants to go back to Nevis to take charge of the teacher. By the way, we also need to bring the ore from the elf secret realm back to Nevis and try to build another Well of Eternity in Nevis or somewhere nearby. If the construction is successful, the Magic Council will no longer have to worry about energy, and the Mage Tower can be built with great fanfare. At least one more Archmage Tower on the scale of the Tower of Babel can be built. Over time, the number of legendary mages in the council may be doubled. When the time comes, the number of legends will be equal to that of the opposite glory Holy See. Who is afraid of whom? If you don't accept it, just do it. If you don't believe it, you can start by relying on faith and rely on those legends who have fixed the magic. You can beat them, the legends who delve into the mysteries of the world. By the way, during this period, the Vatican's lackeys didn't bother them. Have they made new progress in ore? Brother Sanders, you did a good job. Archbishop Farrell clicked 7 dots on his chest, paused, and then clicked 2 more dots. Opposite him, a man wearing a tight velvet jacket, bloomers, and high-top riding boots bowed respectfully. It is my honor to serve the Lord. 10 ships, 10 ship owners, you are the only one who has cleared this road. Archbishop Farrell stretched out his hand pleasantly and put a light touch on his shoulder. Captain Sanders quickly stood upright with his strength. The next moment, Archbishop Farrell held a gold-gilded bookmark and sent it to him with a smile. With this merit, you can go to the church to exchange for a holy object, or exchange for a batch of special supplies from the Vatican, such as holy water, holy oil, etc. The Vatican hopes that you can make more contributions to glorify the glory of the Lord. Captain Sanders immediately reached forward with both hands, held the bookmark, and treasured it in his arms. When Archbishop Farrell retracted his hand, there were several more gems in his palm, which were radiant and dazzling. Don't worry, I'll arrange these supplies and make the second boat trip immediately. Captain Sanders beat his chest loudly. With the protection of the Holy See, I have the confidence to send more oars to my Lord to increase my Lord's glory. Go. Archbishop Farrell nodded majestically. After sending the captain away, he immediately changed his expression and commanded his subordinates. Quick, quick. Load these ores on ships and transport them directly back to the Holy See. We're just waiting for this. Cardinal Macallion has asked me many times. Unfortunately, the Vatican's research on the power of the sun has been stuck in the ore recently. The amount of ore shipped from the Kingdom of Brolin was so small that it was so sad that the miners dug out a mountain and carefully sifted through it, only to find enough selected ore for one cart. These carefully selected ores can be mixed into fine steel to make weapons and armors, and they are completely ready for use. If you want to use them as spell materials, you need to refine them further. The glorious Holy See spent a year or two exhausting 7 or 8 old craftsmen, as well as magicians who defected from the devil's side of the parliament, and then based on the vaguely revealed plan from the Magic Parliament, they refined the ultra-high precision powder. And from a cart of ore, only a small bowl of powder can be extracted. The team that went to the extreme east of the Great Wasteland successfully found the ore. However, that mine is occupied by a nest of large birds. The male bird with brilliant feathers is guaranteed to be a legend, and the female bird with duller feathers is almost less than a legend. The exploration team died at large, and failed to successfully mine the mine. When I asked the locals again, the answer was that they never went to the mountains to seek death, but always picked up ores in the riverbed downstream. This exploration team spent 2 years coming back and forth. Even if the Holy See sends another team over to kill the big bird and open the mine again, it will be 2 years before the ore is recovered. At this moment, a shipload of ore shipped from the Black Continent undoubtedly solved the urgent need. More importantly, a specialized appraiser has determined that the grade of this ship's ore is quite high, and is at least 10 times richer than the ore in the Kingdom of Brolin. The ocean-going ship was replaced by an offshore ship, the Holy See flag was hoisted, and they headed straight for the glorious Holy City. Before they arrived, the entire port was under martial law. The Grand Chief Judge of the Inquisition and Cardinal Macallion, who was responsible for this research, were waiting on the dock in person. Seeing the ship slowly docking at the port, Cardinal Macallion couldn't wait, flew up to the cabin, entered the cabin and grabbed a handful of ore. Feeling the surging power inside, he was filled with joy and praised loudly. Okay, okay, okay. With these ores, we have an extra weapon to deal with those devils. This ship slew monsters and indigenous tribes from the interior of the Black Continent. The ore it brought with great difficulty, despite all kinds of plagues and diseases, was carefully unloaded to the port, and then sent to glory as quickly as possible. In the mountains near the Holy City. There, in the processing place specially built for this purpose, the craftsmen specially found for this purpose are already waiting. As soon as the ore is delivered, it is sent to special equipment for crushing, washing, sorting, and refining. Half a month later, a small box of fine powder, was tightly sealed and sent to the north of the Holy City, Cardinal Macallion's Research Institute. In the heavily sealed and heavily guarded Research Institute, Cardinal Macallion carefully opened the box and poured the fine powder into a special container. The defense capability of the small box is really poor. It should be placed in a special container for easy storage. The most important thing is that it will degrade too quickly if placed in a small box. The black powder was piled up bit by bit at the bottom of the heavy stone box with multiple seals. 1 centimeter thick, 2 centimeters thick, 5 centimeters thick, 10 centimeters thick. Boom! The dazzling blue light surged and swelled, with unparalleled light and heat, swallowing up everything in an instant. Tearing the seals, tearing the stone troughs, tearing the cardinal's vestments, tearing the walls and ceiling of the chamber. The huge fireball, still unsatisfied, continued to expand and roll outwards. Ah! My lord! Has my lord arrived? Double monthly pass for the last 4 hours. Don't hide your monthly votes, please vote for cats. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1565. Chapter 1560, How much of the glory holy city is left? The blue light surged, tearing everything apart. Cardinal Macallion stood in front of the stone trough. Before he could clearly see the changes in front of him, he was caught in the blue light. There was no time to cast spells, no time to pray, no time to even think about anything. The whole body was silent and turned into ashes. As for the soul, maybe it could have been saved, maybe it could have been entered into the kingdom of radiance. However, under such a powerful energy impact, it was instantly wiped out, leaving nothing behind. Next, powerful energy filled the entire stone room and leaked out from the doors, windows, and all openings. On the walls of the stone chamber, the white holy light shone brightly, and was instantly washed away by the blue light, followed by all the walls silently turning into ashes. Then, there are the people in the institute, the other rooms in the institute, everything in the institute. In just 1 second, this huge energy group had expanded outside the institute, sweeping outwards with the power to destroy everything. The Pope was startled, the Grand Inquisitor was startled, the leader of the Holy Knights was startled, the ascetic elders were startled. The ascetic elder is watering the vegetable field. With an alarm in his heart, he didn't even look back. He raised the water ladle in his hand and the crystal water droplets spread out to form a water curtain, covering the entire vegetable field. In the meantime, pray. Just as he was halfway through saying, God said, strong light, high heat, and unimaginable pressure were already coming. What's this? What's this? Enemy attack. What kind of enemy attack could touch the glory holy city silently and explode around him in the core of the holy city? The power of this blow is already equivalent to the full blow of a legendary magician. And there was no warning, it started right away, so fast and so strong. Could it be that some devil blew himself up here? But how could such pure white light and such blazing heat be the devil? That is the nature of the most powerful radiant magic. To activate the most powerful radiant magic, thousands of monks or believers in the entire city need to pray together. 1 day and 1 night, 2 days and 2 nights, and then the decisive blow can be launched. Either that, it must be the holy power stored in the holy objects in the cathedral. However, the holy power has such strong light, but not such high heat. Many thoughts passed through my mind, but it only took a moment. The elder ascetic monk's whole body was shaken, and the linen clothes on his body and the wooden ladle in his hand all flew and burned. After hundreds of years of devout penance and prayer, the accumulated holy power turned into white light and collided with the surging light and heat. However, if you can withstand the light, you cannot withstand the heat. If you can withstand the heat, you cannot withstand the high pressure of that moment. A semicircular fireball rose from the ground and engulfed the elder in just an instant. Even if he ascends to the legend, it will be useless in the face of such an attack. It is not possible to improve the defense in such a short period of time. The water curtain disappeared, the linen clothes were burned, the wooden scoops were burned, and all the muscles and bones were burned. There was only a bunch of condensed holy light left, which stayed in the fireball for a moment, and then was carried by the fireball and rushed outward. All the ascetic practices, all the good deeds, all the morals, as well as all the fighting and killing, love and hatred, piety and doubt, all disappeared under this power of erasing everything. Enemy attack. The headquarters of the Paladins is a little far away from the Research Institute. At this moment, the Grand Leader of the Paladins is watching the 2 half-step legendary Paladins sparring on the training ground. At the warning sign, he instantly raised the kite shield in his right hand and shrank behind the shield. The Holy Knights had been passed down for hundreds of years, and the legendary level of Rock City shone brightly with white light, and a shadow of an angel appeared, with 6 wings spread out, covering his entire body. At the same time, the visor on the Grand Commander's helmet fell, and the arm armor, hand armor, shoulder armor, breast armor, skirt armor, greaves, and iron boots all shone brightly at the same time. The powerful holy power formed a cage of light, providing another layer of protection in the angel's shadow. As soon as the defense was raised, the surging light and heat rushed in, and together with the unparalleled pressure, pushed the leader directly backward. Boom! Boom! Bang bang bang! What's behind? What hit you behind? Is he his comrade? Is it the podium in the square? Or did it smash through the wall and into the auditorium hall? The Grand Captain couldn't even think about this, he just went all out to improve his defense. Hold on! Hold on! Must keep it? The Holy Knights are my lord's sharpest spear and my lord's strongest shield. The Holy Knights will stand in front of all injuries and attacks. The Knights will not be destroyed, and the holy see will not fall. Hot pain shot through his body. In just an instant, it seemed as if all the clothes inside the armor were on fire, and it seemed as if the skin and flesh attached to the armor were directly burned to black. A scorching pillar of fire surged up on the spot, but even this pillar of fire seemed to be much cooler than the hot wind that had just flowed through. The Grand Leader got a burst of strength from nowhere, rolled and crawled, left the pillar of fire, took off his mask and took a look. Gone. Nothing is left. Most of the auditorium hall was gone, the roof was completely blown off, the walls collapsed, and only small sections of broken walls remained. The command podium disappeared, the flagpole disappeared, and the knights who were training on the training ground just now. Most of them have disappeared without a trace, and a few humanoid imprints are imprinted on the walls, making it impossible to tell who is who. Then there are the burned hot armor fragments, the small ones are no more than the size of a fingernail, and the large ones are only the size of a palm, scattered on the ground. Vaughn, Beam, Jeremy, Gordon. He walked forward step by step with difficulty. He could no longer feel the pain, and he almost couldn't even feel his own body. After walking for a while, I dropped to my knees and prayed softly. God. The clean white light did not come and heal the pain on his body. Yes, the power that was swept just now was too powerful, and the power of the entire holy city was chaotic. In this case, it is difficult to call on the holy power. However, for such a big accident, there is still no way to call on the holy power. How many people will die in the future? The steps are getting heavier and heavier, the scene in front of me is getting blurry. I am. Are you going to die? Your Majesty the Pope, I can only rely on you to save the glorious holy city. The Pope subconsciously tightened his hold on the scepter. The Glory Cathedral where he is located is the farthest away from the research institute, and the Glory Cathedral has more holy power accumulated than anywhere else. The holy power stored in the disc on the church steeple alone is enough to launch a legendary level of divine punishment. Therefore, when the rising fireball in the institute began to sweep everything with strong light and high heat, the entire glorious cathedral began to resist spontaneously. The spire, the walls, the flower windows, the icons, the masonry soaked in holy power, the tapestries and curtains on the walls of the hall, the worship mats kneeled on by countless knees, the candlesticks burning with holy oil. From the outermost wall to the most secret small prayer room, every floor is glowing and powerful holy power is stirring. Even if the spire is broken, even if the roof collapses, even if the violent hot wind blows from the hall through the aisles and into every room, this building called a church, which is actually a fortress, still does not collapse so easily. The Pope, who had received the warning, had already knelt down. Put your knees on the ground, curl up your body, clasp your hands in front of your head, hold the scepter tightly, and activate the patron saint technique with all your strength. At this time, he didn't even have time to pray. Just a thought in his mind, and a white light surged from the triple crown on his head. The white light is transmitted from the center of the cathedral, the secret and sturdy small prayer room below the altar, to the statue of the Lord of Glory above, and the statue's great light is transmitted to the entire hall. The cathedral's magical formation rumbled into action. For a moment, looking from the outside, the most majestic and solemn church in this glorious holy city seemed to turn into white light, and it seemed as if the glorious kingdom of God had come to the world. The Pope held his breath and felt it. The great danger from the outside world collided with the magical array of the church, causing it to dent, then bounce out, dent again, and bounce back again. The walls shook, the roof shook, bricks and rubble fell down. Pity. The Pope only felt a buzzing in his ears, and his eyesight turned black and blurred for a while. This magical technique was something he naturally accepted when he ascended to the position of Pope. Each Pope only has 3 crowns in his lifetime, which are stored in the triple crown. During the Pope's coronation ceremony, they are automatically given to the Pope by the Kingdom of Radiance. One shot is used, one shot is missing, and when all is used up, the Pope loses his biggest trump card. Even after a lot of prayers and rituals, he would need to rest for a month or two to use this magical technique. A year and a half is not much even if it is as instant as it is now. But now, this divine spell, released through the great divine spell array of the Glory Cathedral, seems to still be unable to completely withstand the external attack. What kind of attack is it, so violent, so, caught off guard? Could it be that a legend from the Magic Council has arrived? Is such a powerful attack from the evocation system? Only the plasticity department is so strong. It is said that the Lord of Thunder is about to advance. The Kingdom of Radiance also sensed it a few years ago and discovered extremely powerful energy reactions in very far away places. Is it him? Is he here? Even if you are at the second level of legend or the third level of legend, it is not possible to activate such a spell casually. Is the Inquisition dead? There was no news at all beforehand, and when others were preparing the spell, there was still no news at all. A ball of anger surged in the Pope's heart, and he mobilized the great magic array to present the outside world in front of him. With this glance, everything went dark again, and I almost vomited blood on the spot. The entire Glory Holy City, the northern half, that is, the half in the direction of the Research Institute, has almost been razed to the ground. As for the southern half of the Glory Cathedral, although it was not completely destroyed, the buildings collapsed and hundreds of fire pillars rose from the ground among the ruins. The tallest pillar of fire stands at the location of the Research Institute. The rolling, expanding, charred mushroom cloud, with an ominous omen that stung his senses, pressed over the holy city. How much of this glorious holy city is left? Can it be saved? Is this holy city still possible? Thanks to typing Heavenly Kingdom for the reward of 26,000 starting coins. Thanks to Giabio 55 King for the 500 starting coins reward.